Paul Feinbaum's calling for Dabo Swinney to get out. We'll talk about it right here on Locked On Clemson.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Clemson fans? I'm Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, and host and producer of Locked On Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And to the everydayers out there, big salute over to you for sticking with me Monday through Friday, every single week. You know how we do it here on Locked On, exclusive Clemson content for you all throughout the weekday. And if you're new to the show, well, what are you waiting for? Hit the like and subscribe button. About 75% of you are not yet subscribed. So what are you waiting for? What are you missing? There's a lot you could be missing. Hopefully you enjoy this show and see what you are missing. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Paul Feinbaum. I know you guys are going to love this because I'm talking about Paul Feinbaum. You're probably going to hate it because Paul Feinbaum seems to just have it out for Dabo Swinney and Clemson in general. He doesn't seem like he's ever liked Clemson, doesn't seem like he's ever liked Dabo Swinney. But yet again, here we are, the SEC homer and Alabama homer and Paul Feinbaum calling for Dabo Swinney to get out of Clemson. Quote, get out of Clemson. But is that what fans are thinking now? Are Clemson fans actually willing to agree with Paul Feinbaum? Let's be real. I don't think Dabo Swinney is getting fired. I don't think that Dabo Swinney is retiring. And so I believe that Dabo Swinney will be the coach for at least the next 3 years. That's what I really believe. Unless something catastrophic happens, which, I mean, you could say this year has been pretty catastrophic. But I think if you have multiple bad years, that's when some changes, at least with the head coach, would be made. Dabo has earned a lot of equity so far and a long leash to be able to right his wrong. This is his big wrong year, and he has to right it. Paul Feinbaum told the Matt Berry show that Dabo has become petulant and should start over somewhere else after the 46-45 Duke loss. And more of his framing was not so much that Clemson should fire him. It was more of that it needed to be a mercy move for Dabo and for Clemson. Dabo needs to get out because he's not helping Clemson. Clemson needs to get out of Dabo because Dabo's not going to be changing his ways. And while he may have run his time up at Clemson, maybe he could be good somewhere else. I try to think about that. Would a lot of big time schools, who are looking for a new head coach, take Dabo Swinney? A few weeks ago would probably say that Dabo thought that he could go coach anywhere because of his resume, because he made sure to tell us about his resume. And I've told you that I thought that was a bad move. That really made him look kind of arrogant and not graceful in a time of trial in his career. And I hate to agree with Paul Feinbaum. I don't actually agree with him here, not just simply because he's Paul Feinbaum. I do think that Paul Feinbaum likes to poke fun at Clemson. In this case, there is a little bit of truth. Dabo does look frustrated. He does look like that this year has really gotten to him. It does seem as if he's tried to make these flashy hires. I mean, Matt Luke was hired at a round of applause by the fan base. Garrett Riley was hired by a round of applause and got a round of applause from the fan base. He was a Broyles Award winner. Cade Klubnik was a 5-star quarterback. And they just recently went to the playoffs last season. And then Dabo went out and hired Tom Allen on defense, a top 5 defense from Penn State after just 1 year at Penn State. Dabo went and brought in moved Taj Boyd and Ben Boulware into roles as the staff. And I believe he felt and pitched the idea that those guys were going to be the best recruiters for Clemson because they've lived it. And I believed it. I really did. But the problem you have is they have no experience in actually beating the streets and going into the living rooms and winning those battles and making those deals. Is Ben Boulware a Clemson salesman? Yeah, I guess. Yes. Is Taj Boyd? Yeah. But are they the best possible option given their experience? But I do believe Dabo Swinney is at a little bit of a loss right now. He's going to have to make changes on his staff that I think he's not going to really want to do. And he's going to think probably it's not time. We thought it was time with Tony Elliott. We thought it was time with Wes Goodwin. We thought it was time with Brandon Streeter. But it seems as if the replacements haven't done much better, if at all. Dabo's still the man who brought Clemson back to relevance in the modern era. He earned the right to fix what he broke. But the question is, can he fix it? Because there's not a lot of, if any, example of that. The problem that Paul Feinbaum is correct in is that it's not really about motivation, and it's not about not beating Clemson, as we talked about in the previous episode. It's really about modernization. The sport in college football is moving to a new economy. It has moved. Clemson is moving. It has moved already. There is a difference between accountability and disrespect. As you know, I try to lean on the side of accountability and be out of being respectful. Social media doesn't like that. They want me to blast Dabo and fire everyone and burn the house down. I don't believe it's right. I still believe that unless you can somehow get out of his buyout, which is extremely, extremely expensive. If the buyout's there, you fight through it. And you have Graham Neff put pressure on Dabo as much as you can, and you just fight through the buyout. When I say fight through the buyout, I mean you keep Dabo until it's in a more manageable amount. Because I still believe, maybe I'm wrong in this belief, but I believe that Clemson is still a small market, is a small market, not still a small market, but is a small market. And they don't have the donors that are like the high level donors and the huge businessmen and women that can just foot the bill. So if they don't foot the bill, then the fans foot the bill. And then that's more burden on all of us. And then that's less of an opportunity to pay for players. And this modernization of college football, it's time to go buy players that are going to get the job done from the transfer portal market or the free agency or what you want to talk about. The whole buyout, getting him out of here stuff, that's ridiculous. It's not a good long-term or even short-term investment for Clemson to do that, in my opinion. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm okay with that. His personality and things are at a crossroads, and we'll talk about those crossroads and the culture clash and the consequences that are coming right here in segment 2 on Locked On Clemson. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, Get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Well, Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. And their Trade Master Perks program, like priority shipping and dedicated support line, makes the whole process smoother. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, segment 2, we're going to talk about Clemson's crossroads and how the culture is really facing some consequences. And specifically, when I think about the culture, I think about the identity that has been lost in the past couple of years. And Clemson is not just losing these games, they are actually losing their identity. I don't believe firing Dabo is the fix. 3-5 overall right now, unranked. This is a program that is stuck in its own mistakes. And is it fully broken? I don't believe so. The biggest problem that I have for Clemson is the overwhelming and unrelenting type of loyalty that we're seeing. I love what Clemson stands for overall, family and best is the standard, and faith being a big part of Dabo Swinney and what he is imparting on these young men. I believe in those things. But Dabo is a slow mover. He is not a first to the market guy. He is a laggard behind, and he tries to make very calculated decisions, but those calculated decisions cause some problems because when you don't make the right decisions after taking your time, then now you're behind. The game has been moving really fast. And what I mean by the game is outside the game, really, like paying players. You know, it's not the sponsorships we thought, it's paying them directly. And now it's paying them directly through revenue share. And then transfer portal is an unmonitored wild west of a free agency. Roster churn has been a problem because the more you keep saying, well, those guys weren't starters anyways, that's more depth and experience that you're leaving behind, or at least time and development that you are not replenishing with a true freshman. He's resisted getting better players from the free agency market in the transfer portal. And that's perfectly fine when those players that you have on the team are 12-1, you know, 10-3, whatever. I mean, that's perfectly fine. But when you're 3-5, that's when it's basically stubborn and you haven't made the changes necessary to adapt or address the concerns, or you haven't even thought about the concerns. We keep hearing the words, we need to get the right kind of guys, or we like our guys. Well, we like our guys. Those guys are not winning you games. They're not performing at the right level. Maybe it's time to get better players. Players that can help you win today, not just using the high school market. True freshman high school market still has to be a big deal. But see, I did some data digging on three's transfer portal team rankings. I did a list of the past 3 years, not including this year, but the past 3 years of team rankings in the transfer portal, top 50. And then I did how many players they brought in. And then I did how many wins did they get that season. What I found is 0-5 is not enough. Historically, it's not enough to revamp positions that are lacking. And we're seeing that with Clemson. It's very evident. It helps. It doesn't hurt to get 3, but you need more than that because your team needs more than that. So you've got to find, or at least identify and be honest with yourself, what areas of your team are not performing well. Dabo Swinney, to me, did not do a good job of evaluating his team and his players that he has. He loves our guys. He loves his guys. But his guys, typically the guys that he promotes the most in the preseason, either don't play, or when they do play, you don't want them to play. That's where fans get jaded. The Clemson standard needs to be best is the standard, excellence is the standard, but also, and accountability is the standard, but also Clemson needs to add to its building blocks or pillars of success adaptability. They've lost that, or they have lost it over the past couple of years. Dabo has to adapt to this new world of college football. Financially, I believe Clemson can hang. They've got, it's not by accident you drive to Clemson in what most people would say is just a college town in farmland, and there's an 80+ thousand people stadium that hosts rock stars and Savannah Bananas, and that's a bigger stadium than a lot of the professional stadiums. And it's giant compared to anything else around there. And the football facilities are state of the art. Financially, Clemson is there, but only for so long, because if you keep producing these types of seasons and having these types of fits, I will say, on press conferences, then emotionally the fan base is going to check out. They're already to a point where they're beyond frustrated. The boos are even more than ever. The tension is really the true story behind all of this, is that it's got to a boiling point, and it's, what you would probably say is boiling over. It's not even really about how the locker room responds anymore, because a lot of people feel as if this season is lost, and if they make a bowl game, they make it. If they don't, they don't, and it's on this season, and it's really all Dabo's fault. And a lot of that is true. It is Dabo's responsibility, and it is his job now to take accountability for that, for what is happening. And it is frustrating. You can tell, for him, for the staff. You could see it in Wade Woodhaz post-game. Visibly upset, visibly frustrated. You could see it in the players during the game. They're not checked out. They want to win. They're trying their best. And that's another problem too, is that if they truly are trying their best, then they're just not that good of a team, or they're not that good of a players, or maybe they're decent players, but they don't work well together. A lot of things and a lot of answers that we just don't have. The consequences are here for taking our guys, because they're just not fitting together. One thing I got to say about the transfer portal is you can't just pick and choose anybody you want, and you can't get everybody. You have to get people that are going to fit. Going back to what I said about you can't do 0 to 5, the sweet spot that ChatGPT told me is about 10 to 15. Typically 15 to 25 it has worse results than not. And 25 plus or 26 plus is a mixed bag. You're either going to have a great season or a bad season. You're going to have a Florida State season or an Ole Miss season. I would say stick between the 10 and 15. Imagine if Clemson would have had 10 transfer portal players instead of the 3. I think this team would have been better. I think a lot of the gaps would have been filled up. Imagine if they would have had few players here and there, a few more linebackers, few more safeties, few more offensive linemen, maybe even a running back. Imagine where Clemson would be with just different guys, not just our guys. All right, hey, segment 3, we're going to talk about what should Clemson do going forward. Should they stay? Should they go? What should Dabo do going forward? Should he stay? Should he go? Should he grow? We'll talk about it right here in the final segment on Locked On Clemson. NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets in the same game parlays for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And hopefully Clemson can make a late push this November and get a couple more wins and actually get bowl eligible. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com and sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Now, Paul Feinbaum also said, you got to get out. Going back to what he said. So Paul Feinbaum says, can't stay. You got to get out of here. You got to go. What do you say? Well, what I'll tell you what I say is I think you got to grow. You got to adapt. You got to evolve. You got to prove that you can build a team in the modern era of college football. Can Dabo Swinney lead a team? Yeah, he can lead a team for better than most out there. I believe he's a great leader of a team, leader of men, motivator of men. He used to be a great recruiter. He kind of took a step back and has not been doing as well with that, and also not been aided by some staff that can do well. When you look at CJ Spiller, he struggled. When you look at Ben Boulware, he's not off to a good start. When you look at Chris Rump and Eason and Mickey Kahn and Mike Reed, they all kind of go up and down. Right now, they're a little bit more down than they were up. Look at Richardson, he's done pretty well. Look at Gresham, he's done pretty well. Taj Boyd, not really. Garrett Riley. But people do come to Clemson because of Dabo. I believe they still do. I think there's a good reason for that too. Because of his legacy, because of who he is, because of the culture that he built, because of the loyalty that he has, those are a lot of good things that people do want part of their life and part of their late formative years, I guess you could say, in college. Should Dabo Swinney get out? I don't think so. Not just the money problem and the buyout with the $60 million and the $59 million, but Clemson faces Florida State next. And Florida State is also struggling, and there's many other teams out there that used to be like Clemson. They're a mirror of what they once were. Talented, confident. There are a lot of teams that are struggling to find their way as well. And there are a lot of teams out there that are firing their coach, including teams that have beaten Clemson, like LSU. So there's no proven path that is just going to be a fix for Clemson. Maybe Clemson has reached its pinnacle in this era. I don't believe that. But it reached its pinnacle in the last era, the pre-transfer NIL era. Dabo Swinney was extremely good. He has got to grow and adapt. He's got to evolve. He's got to have adaptability as a key value for the team going forward. Changing is really hard, for everyone. It's the harder path. But it is the one that may matter the most. If you stay the same and if you do not adjust, then you're going to keep getting, I believe, the same results. And if you think about it, there's not a huge implosion that needs to happen. We saw it with the Duke game. the offense, if it has a good offensive line, Garrett Riley's offense can work. If they had a better running back, which they have one in the waiting, it's being developed, it could work. They have good wide receivers, it could work. So Clemson's offense is not that far away. They need a better quarterback. It's going to cost some money, but they need a better quarterback than Cade. They need a better quarterback than Christopher Vizima. It's going to cost some money. It's going to take walking away from a strong held stance of loyalty to specific players who've been around or waited their turn. Waiting their turn is not of core value. Adaptability is a core value. And the assistants have got to get better. You know, they need to bring in a few assistants that are just better at recruiting. And if it's not the assistants, let's say that they keep them, then what is Dabo doing that is not empowering them to do better? Because I point my finger you point your finger back to Dabo as the head coach. He is the one that is the issue. That is the guy that is responsible. Beating Florida State's not going to fix anything either. Getting to a bowl game this year is not going to fix anything either. I agree with the fans in that. But what I will say is that Clemson needs to find something, some sort of spark. If it's truly 2010, as Dabo reminds him of 2010, remember just a few weeks ago, the team reminded him of 2016 and we all laughed because that was ridiculous. Is the team 2010? I think that's also a stretch too. Dabo Swinney needs to be the 2026 Dabo Swinney, and he's got to figure out who that is. And it can't be the 2010 Dabo, and it can't be the 2015 or 2016 Dabo. He's got to find out who or determine what he is going to be moving forward. The modern portal NIL Dabo, because if not, if he doesn't grow, then he should find a way to take advantage of other opportunities if he's not going to adapt and grow. I mean, that's just the honest case. And that's really true with all of us. We're not going to continue to adapt and grow throughout life. Then, we're really going to just be stuck in the same old same. We're not going to be improving at all. And we're not perfect by any means already. So we've got a long way to go in life. Can he do it? Well, this offseason is going to be a big determining factor on whether he can or not. Hey, thank you so much for making Locked On Clemson your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs and Alex Dono break down the most interesting college conference in sports, from the rivalries to the championships to every game in between. Find Locked On ACC or on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you at the top of the hill.